Welcome to the Young Turks. We got an awesome Friday show for you guys. Are you ready for another panel? Now, are you ready for some all-stars? Watch this. All of a sudden, Richard Eskow from Huffington, one of the most popular bloggers on Huffington Post, crushing every single week.
Every single week, every single day, my friend.
Oh, is that right?
Every single day.
Okay, so he's not playing.
I'm not playing. I told you I wasn't playing. I'm not playing.
Brian Unger from many things, including NPR and How the States Got Their Shape, which everybody in this office is raving about. Like, they actually played it low-key with you, but like yesterday when I was out, Brian's coming in, Anna and other people are like, oh, it's such a good show, it's such a good show.
Did you know you had so many geography nerds working with you?
I didn't.
Yeah.
Quick story before we get on to the stories. Get to the main discussion points here on this very important panel. When I never took geography. I don't know if I'm alone here, and I don't know what grade you were supposed to take it in, but in our school system, we never had geography, so I suck at geography. Like, every once in a while, I'll find out that Minnesota neighbors, I don't even know what it neighbors.
Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Absolutely. You can see, Sarah Palin can see Minnesota from her house. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason, Cenk, is this. It's gone the way of sex education. The reason is because it used to be held, widely held belief that surveyors drew these borders. Now we all know that God drew the borders.
Oh, is that right? I didn't see. Another thing I didn't know.
Yeah.
And they don't teach you that in New Jersey, that secular state.
Oh, I mean, where do you think all these sort of like walk a mile in my shoe, kick off the sand
It's
from your
walk a mile in my shoes unless you're, you know, a
but-
one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest that's plural. But, okay.
And then what was the other one? I looked behind me and Jesus was carrying me.
Right.
All these are really surveying. These come from the Bible of survey, the book of survey, which you'll read later.
And Brian's next series, which is how the congressional districts got their shapes, is going to be even more interesting.
Let me tell you, the one thing in the show that was most fascinating in the 10 hours we did was gerrymandering. And it's the most boring subject known to humankind.
No, that's exactly it.
But it's the most critical
Of course.
issue of geography that no one wants to talk about because we have to figure out a way to make gerrymandering sexy. And that's really what I'm going to do in season 2.
Maybe if it was a person like Jerry Mander.
There was, and that's
I
where it
knew
came
him.
from.
I knew
I know.
I knew
but
the
like
other
if
one,
he was
the
on,
modern one.
if he was on Craigslist and he was trying to pick up trannies or something like that guy Chris Lee from New York, then people were like, "Oh, really? What's gerrymandering? That sounds fascinating."
Here are photos of
It's
gerrymander
illegal
sent to other young congressional redrawers.
Congressional transgender
It's illegal
people,
to do it
you know.
across state lines. Did you know that? It's illegal to gerrymander across state lines.
All right, see,
which
now
gets
we're
back to your
having
series.
fun. Right. All right, so look for that on the History Channel later. Okay.
And have you seen some of these districts? They're looking a little phallic these days. Too.
Oh,
So
well, yeah,
we'll
most of
figure
those.
this out. We'll
All
make
right.
it sexy.
Okay, well, now on to our very important topics. We're going to discuss a number of issues that are scintillating and very hot today, obviously, and then we'll throw in some other fun videos as well. First topic, is Allen West Harriet Tubman? Okay, very important. He has brought this up. You know, I see it a little bit now. I see it. He brought this up the other day, and first let's show you that clip, and then we will show you some of the fun reaction to that. Here's Allen West.
So you have this 21st century plantation that has been out there where the Democrat Party has forever taken the black vote for granted. And you have established certain black leaders who are nothing more than the overseers of that plantation. And now the people on that plantation are upset because they've been disregarded, disrespected, and their concerns are not cared about. So I'm here as the modern day Harriet Tubman to kind of lead people on the Underground Railroad away from that plantation into a sense of sensibility.
Now, you're saying Maxine Waters is the plantation boss at this point?
Well, absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, funny enough, Maxine Waters went on MSNBC and then was asked about this, and she's going to relay a very interesting story about this. Let's watch.
No, I think that's odd, and it doesn't make good sense, and I don't think that it even deserves a response. Did they tell you his brother was here today?
Tell me.
He has a brother that's out of work. Well, his brother came up to me, introduced himself, and told me that he had lost his job. He had been laid off. And I asked him if he had called his brother, and he said he had. And I said, and what did he say? He said he told me to come to the job fair. He told me to come and see you. And so we're hopeful that we can help his brother.
So he sent him to the plantation, as he put it.
Well, you know, that's a reasonable conclusion.
All right, everybody loves Chris Matthews' laugh. So, I mean, that is an amazing story that Alan West sends somebody to Maxine Waters, and when he says he's trying to get people off for a plantation, fascinating, his own brother. But look, those are well, it's not even conflicting stories because Alan West hasn't denied it yet, but it seems unbelievable. So let's go to Arlen West, the actual brother. What does he think of the Congressional Black Caucus and their job fair? Well, let's watch.
The responsibility of our elected officials is to serve their constituents in any capacity that they can. And this was a prime example of them doing that. I saw a true, genuine sincerity from the Congressional Black Caucus to try to get a community employed that is unemployed.
It seems like he thinks that they were doing a pretty good job of helping other African Americans. It didn't seem like he wanted to join Allen, Harriet Tubman West out of that so-called plantation. Well, okay, how about Allen West and his kind of talk and his rhetoric? Let's see what his brother has to say about that.
That kind of conversation and that kind of dialogue is not productive. We need to have productive dialogue in Washington. We need to all sit at the table together as one and figure the problems of the country out and come together. That's what we need to do. We need to stop using negative rhetoric and negative dialogue because that is not productive.
I love this story. I mean, first of all, his brother sounds only 100 times smarter than Alan West does. And then second of all, the fact that he actually sent him to Maxine Waters to get a job and his brother thought it was useful are all awesome. Now, let me get you guys' thoughts on this. I mean, first of all, how much would the people of Florida in that district be better served having Arlen West as their congressman rather than Alan West?
I'm thinking right away of the home life in the West household when these kids were growing up, because they don't even seem to be, like, was a bassinet switched or something? Because Arlen West is a reasonable, intelligent human being. Alan, they don't even have the same hair. You know, I mean, Alan has that Max Headroom hair, and Arlen looks like a normal guy. But I do have to say that I think there are certain elements of the slave experience, if I may say so as a non-African American, that may have escaped Alan West's attention. If he believes that the slave experience in the United States consisted of showing up once every 4 years at a pre-designated spot and issuing a vote for a political party and then going about your business for 4 years, I think he perhaps need to review his historical studies a little bit, and some watching of Brian's television program might be helpful too, because I think his American history needs a little work.
Right, but also his geography, to reference Brian's show, because if he's Harriet Tubman and he's saying that he's taking people off the plantation and delivering them somewhere, but it sounds like if he delivered his brother back to Maxine Waters, by his own logic, he's Harriet Tubman in reverse, sending them back to the plantation.
And
so maybe he's got it all mixed up.
That the Underground Railroad went to Ohio. It didn't go to D.C., did it?
I don't believe it went to D.C., no.
It didn't go to a job fair.
It did not go to a job fair. That's a given.
I'm a little
That's
confused
a given.
about if we're going to stretch this metaphor, let's really stretch it. Otherwise, let's not do the metaphor. Because watching that hour with Laura Ingraham and the congressman there, it's like, I had an uncle who was a paranoid schizophrenic. That's what it's like listening to a schizophrenic. It's like so detailed with minutia that is insane, that has no reality to it. And I'm just going to follow this dogmatically. I'm going to just hammer this metaphor, and you're going to go with it, and we're all going to allow it here. She's just as crazy and angry, and so then you have the brother who just basically is breathing a fresh air of sanity into the discussion. It's kind of, it's so loopy to me.
Yeah, you know, it reminds me of Beautiful Mind. And I say this about Glenn Beck's chalkboard all the time. Like, he's like, oh, and then Mao talks to Saul Alinsky, and then Saul Alinsky talks to, Hamas, who talks to Obama.
You know, we might be giving Alan West a little bit too much credit with that Beautiful Mind analogy, who was, after all, a brilliant mathematician. I think this is a guy who got lost in a metaphor on television, and then the anchor is going, really? And even Laura Ingraham has her limits, and so he's just going to roll with it. He's just like flailing, man. He's just saying, okay, yeah, it's like an underground railroad, but it costs $2.50 to get to Hoboken. You got to have your ticket punched. I mean, he's just going wherever he can go just so he doesn't drown on live television. That's the way I read it.
All right, now let's take a serious turn on this.
You make a great point.
Right.
Can I also just say, too, we really need to clear the phrase of a job fair. There was a time in American history where a job fair was fun. You would go there and there would be all these opportunities, and I'd just go to this desk and I got all this swag and I got 4 offers. Now it's just a big unemployment line in a circle in a hotel convention room where it's not fun, it's not festive, it's not a carnival midway. There's nothing fun about the job fair.
I hear they don't even have corn dogs there. What kind of fair is that?
Cotton candy, forget about it.
How will there be any embarrassing photos if there are
Models,
no corn dogs?
Have you seen those?
Yes.
Models posing on the hood of a new Buick as it slowly rotates. Ain't gonna happen. No, but I'm actually glad you brought that up, because behind all the nonsense and the insanity of Alan West, the fact is he's speaking for policies that are putting millions of people out of work, keeping millions of people out of work. These job fairs are a sign of the misery we're going through right now. He's got a brother experiencing the same misery, but he'll still trot out the same BS because that's his gig, and he couldn't care less what the implications are.
All right. So now, look, we know the Republicans aren't doing anything. I mean, look at yesterday we had this discussion before we knew what his brother said. And JR asked, hey, well, so what's Alan West doing to lead people out of that plantation? Like, what's his plan? Where does as you were saying, where does the train stop? Okay, where does it go? And as we found out, it ironically stops at Maxine Waters' office, so it's the greatest irony of all, like when someone who's actually unemployed comes to him. So we know the Republicans have no plan. But when he turns to the Democrats, I mean, we got this whole conversation started because Maxine Waters was pleading with her audience at one of these town hall kind of events where she was saying, hey, listen, we're not going after the president and pressuring him more because you won't let us, okay? Now, if you tell us to let go, we'll let go. Thereby obviously implying that they're very aggrieved with the president for not doing anything about, in their opinion, and some flat out come out and say, John Conyers has been very strong on that. 16% unemployment in African American community, 36% child poverty rate in the African American community. Now, when you turn to Latinos, similarly bad numbers, 31% poverty rate for kids, et cetera. So finally, today, the Obama administration did something. They said, okay, we're getting a lot of pressure from Latinos. So the record deportations we've been doing will basically slow them down. Okay, so what we'll do is the 300,000 people we were about to deport will go case by case, so it'll go much slower. Okay, and we'll start with the guys who committed felony crimes before we were deporting everybody, and we'll work our way down the list. Is it enough? Is it just for politics that he's doing that? Has Obama done enough for the black community, Latino community? Has he given an opportunity for Republicans, even if they don't have an answer, to swoop in and say, oh my God, you see, he hasn't done anything for you, we're here for you? So I know that's a lot of questions.
You brought up so much. First of all, we could just do an hour on this whole issue of the Democratic rank and file and whether they've unleashed, what will it take to let them unleash Maxine Waters and other progressives on what the administration is doing. And frankly, if you want to go there, we'll go there. But I'm a little upset with the Democratic rank and file, who the only group in the country, the only demographic groups in the country who by majority opposed supported the debt ceiling deal, even though they hated what was in it, were Democrats and liberals. And
that makes no sense.
That is what's tying the hands of Maxine Waters and Raul Grijalva and other people. So if you want to go there, we can go there. As far as immigration is concerned, I did a piece a few months back. Under Bush and then under Obama, the indictment rates, the arrest rates, the investigation rates for illegal immigrants is many, many times what it is for bank criminals, white-collar crime, you name it. They are throwing more than half their Justice Department resources at investigating illegal immigrants. So they're going to slow it down, great. But, their priorities are ass backwards, and, we could do either one of those for a long time if you want to.
Back to the Maxine Waters thing, any media attention or refocusing of the political, how upset the population is when it's redirected at a local congressional level is a good thing for all of us, because I just feel like there's so much there's so much emphasis on the president and what he's going to do for us.
Right.
When most people don't know what their congressperson has done for them in their district. California has a 12% unemployment rate, it was announced today. We're second to Nevada. Now, if you look at LA County, which is like bigger than most states, I doubt you could find people to talk about what congressperson has done for their district in terms of giving them jobs. I like to see someone facing their congressional district and the people out there and being held accountable and asking, and whatever that word is, dialoguing with them about that. But I think that we need to look at our districts and what's going on in our districts.
Well, let me say two things about that. One, I love what you're saying. I think Wisconsin was a great model. I think Washington is so thoroughly corrupted. That's one of the topics we're about to do. I think you go state by state, you take the fight to the politicians in those areas and ask them for accountability. Now, number two, some people have done that to Fred Upton in Michigan. He's a Republican. He's on the super committee, which is very, very important, and some constituents have taken him on. This is fun. Let's watch.
Well, this is something I know that the committee will look at, because as you can see on this part of the pie chart,
jobs on your chart.
Medicare is $519 billion out of $3.5 trillion.
Where's the job?
The seniors paid for that Medicare out of your checks. They paid.
Excuse me.
Yes, excuse me. Why? I want to know, how is the balance going to, how is the deficit going to be balanced off the backs of the low income?
Let me just say.
Programs like welfare, food stamps. If you're going to start cutting, cut from the top. Cut from the people who can afford to be
Let me just say,
Yeah, I'd love to hear what you had to say. Yeah, I couldn't tell what that chant was either, but I knew it had something to do with jobs.
We want jobs, maybe?
Right.
I mean, I don't think it was, we don't want jobs.
It's bring back jobs, I think.
Bring
back jobs. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? I got to tell you something. What we just saw, we spent 7 months on the road for this history series. I talked to over 1,200 people and everyday Americans. I felt like I was running for office, but I had no office to run for, so I had nothing to lose.
Right.
Or nothing to win. But what you find is that on the local level, there's such a detachment between those who live in an area, in a region, and the congressman who represents them.
Yeah.
They are so out of touch with the malaise that is affecting these various regions, and so much anger and fury that it has given rise to these tea parties and all this other. It's a lack of leadership and a separation of what are.
And I think that's absolutely right.
I don't know. I'm not an expert in it, but that's what I've found and heard over and over and over again.
I think it ties back also to what you were saying earlier about there's too much coverage at the presidential level and not enough at the congressional level, because I think what happens is that there's an awful lot of news coverage in this country, but it's all personalities, and it's kind of like a reality show. So now the big thing in the blogosphere is, would Hillary have done a better job than Barack? Which is, and somebody asked me about that on a radio show the other day. My answer was, I reject the question. I reject the question for two reasons. Number one, because that's a very narrow span of policy options. It's like saying, would Kim Kardashian be better than her sister as the headmistress? Yeah, right. I reject the question. But number two, because it's personality driven. It's Barack is this and Hillary is that. My congressperson is Henry Waxman. And I watch how he votes, but I never think is Henry a player? What's Henry really like? What's his marriage like? I couldn't care less. My relationship he may be the mustache of love for all I know. It doesn't matter to me. And the reason it doesn't matter is because it's local, it's central, it's about the policy. So if we could shift the coverage and the thinking away from this personality-driven stuff and more to people dealing with their own issues and just kind of saying, no, I'm going to get a little less engaged in Barack and Michelle and the kids or Hillary and Bill. And I'm going to get a little more engaged in what's happening to me. I mean, I know it's easy to say and it's idealistic, but if we could do that the way these people were doing
it's not idealistic
you know,
because you know why? I went down this sort of, and I wasn't high when I was doing it. I was just thinking about what a great idea it would be to have local news organizations that actually focused on these districts and then reported that way. And then I went, oh yeah, it's called the local TV news,
which is dying,
where they don't do.
Right.
Then anything of real political value, like everything else in the media land, it's all on Sunday morning. All the shows on Sunday morning need to be Monday through Friday. Have you ever noticed that?
Right. Well, and those Sunday morning shows, and you know, they're all right.
But the local ones, but the local shows where they have like
where they focus on the community.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, I see what you're saying. Look,
are you talking about cable access or no?
Just because they look that way, you know.
All right. Let me say a couple of quick things on all the great points that you guys brought up. Well, number one, look, the disconnect is in what those guys were chanting about. You know, the guy's got a chart up there, Congressman Upton does, and one of the guys yells out, "Where are jobs on that chart?" Right? The reason Upton didn't put jobs on that chart is because he doesn't give a damn about the people in his district. Why doesn't he give a damn? It's because he doesn't really get elected by them. He gets elected by the people who give him money so that he can run misleading ads and hence collect the votes, etc. So the money matters more than what his constituents actually care about.
Yeah.
There's that massive disconnect.
And the disconnect is, I think, what's scary about the disconnect is if a comic does an act in a big city and it kills, and then that comic then goes to, let's say, Funny Bones in Des Moines, they tailor the act to reflect the audience. This is a guy who doesn't even know his audience. He was giving the same bits. He was doing the same bits that he did elsewhere to an audience that is his constituency. And they were like, not only is your joke not funny, you're not even one of them. Who are you? Like, what are you dying out here?
But they're not his audience. See, that's the thing. They are no longer his audience. His audience are the people who pay for his campaign ads.
That's right.
He doesn't do live gigs.
Right.
He's strictly broadcast. So he just does a live gig once in a while. I don't know, like the Beatles playing the Cavern Club for nostalgia. They don't care about the live gigs. They don't care about the, you know, that's not where the money is. That's not where the power is.
Yeah, they're hoping that they have a sleepy audience, and then every once in a while when they get engaged, they don't really know what to do. I mean, the second part of that was a perfect example of that. He says, you know, the problem is in Medicare and Social Security as you're looking at this chart. Now, who put that chart together for him? Probably Heritage Foundation, the group called ALEC, which is a corporate group that, you know, why do they want to cut Social Security and Medicare? Because they already gave the money away in tax cuts and wars, et cetera.
But check out the arrogance when he says, excuse me. Like, don't interrupt me. I've been appointed to this office.
Right, exactly. Right.
I mean, you didn't put me here. Right. I got myself here. And then she goes, excuse me. I love her.
Yeah, she's in his face.
Yeah. Bring it. And then the whole place is ready to rip him in half.
And that's because she's right. She has the facts on her side. If you notice what she said was, look, the Social Security and Medicare are a big chunk because we already paid into it.
Yeah,
we already paid into it. It's our money, right? And what Upton's trying to explain to him in his corporate finance chart is how he's going to steal their money. And when they're not interested in that, he doesn't know what to do. He's flummoxed.
But the other thing is, you know, in a democracy, that town meeting should be like an executive reporting to his board of directors. I did this for you. I did this for you. Next year, I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to do that for you. Sure. And if they say, listen, I have a question, he just say, excuse me. Because they say, oh, excuse you? Am I interrupting you? Well, the next CEO won't feel that way, so step aside because you're gone. That's how they would treat it. He should be treating his constituents like his board of directors, and he's treating them like his flunkies. And I love that woman for not standing for it. She was great.
She's great.
All right, we got to take the break here. By the way, one of the biggest contributors to Fred Upton, Koch Industries, of course.
Things go better with Coke.
Have a Coke and a smile. Right? Yeah, he got a big smile when he got the check. And of course, it's because he's the head of the Energy Committee. So Koch Industries, big oil and gas company, obviously very interested in that.
Coke does give you energy, I'm told.
So I doubt he says, excuse me, Mr. Koch.
Right. Excuse me, I was talking there.
I doubt he does that.
No, that's not how it goes with when Charles or David Koch calls in. All right, when we come back, speaking of our dysfunctional government, Matt Taibbi, one of the few good reporters in the country, actually did an investigation. I know it's shocking, okay? And it's about the SEC and whether our government agencies are fundamentally broken. And then Dominionists. This is a fascinating branch of Christianity, Christian right, massively Christian right, but we'll show you how Rick Perry and Michelle Bachmann might be involved in it. So let's come back and talk about those. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur, Richard Eskow, Brian Unger. We got a great panel today. It's Fridays. We're doing panels on Fridays from time to time. I already love the conversation. All right, next topic. We've got actual questions written out for these topics. Can we trust any of our government agencies? Okay, that is what we're going to be discussing. And this is because of a great story that Matt Taibbi did in Rolling Stone. It's about the SEC and how the regulators there work. First of all, surprisingly, Chuck Grassley, a Republican senator from Iowa, has been asking the SEC about some investigations. And now he found out through partly a whistleblower that Matt also writes about, that turns out they basically destroy records of their investigations. And I love the first quote from Grassley. He says, quote, "It doesn't make sense that an agency responsible for investigations would want to get rid of potential evidence." Which makes a lot of sense. That's right. If you cared about the investigations, you probably wouldn't want to get rid of the evidence. But what they're doing is these are called Matters Under Investigations, MUIs. And low-level analysts who actually care about their jobs actually look into whether there's insider trading, fraud, et cetera, against these big banks. Then it goes up to the higher levels, and the higher levels go, yeah, I don't think so. We're not doing any of those investigations, and burn the records. Okay, they don't actually burn them, but they do shred them. They literally destroy all the records. So now, why would they do this? Well, let's give you one example. There's a guy by the name of Dick Walker who was in charge of reviewing one of these investigations against Deutsche Bank. And there was apparently considerable evidence to that. Again, we find this out through whistleblowers, like a guy by the name of Darcy Flynn, who had worked there for over a decade, right? And so they bring this up to his attention. He says, I'm going to recuse myself from the case. And we're not going to tell you why we stopped the case, but when you look at that, all of a sudden, the case is gone. It is not pursued, and all the evidence is destroyed. Now, you want to guess where Dick Walker went to right afterwards? A couple months later, shockingly enough, he became the general counsel for Deutsche Bank. And that's generally how it works. And Matt's got a lot more details in the Rolling Stone piece, which we'll talk about in a second here. But let me open it up to you guys. So, is there any hope here? As you read the Rolling Stone story, it's a constantly revolving door. The heads of the organizations, the top guys, are constantly going to work for Goldman Sachs, Deutsche Bank, this well-known swindler, Texas billionaire. Let me give you his name. R. Ellen Stanford, who finally got arrested. $7 billion Ponzi scheme. Here, let me give you a quote from that because it's so great. The guy who was supposed to investigate him doesn't investigate him, burns the records. Okay, I mean, this is so crazy, right? And then says, quote, every lawyer, after he went to go work for him, he says, every lawyer in Texas and beyond is going to get rich on this case, okay? I hated being on the sidelines. Like, I got to get a piece of the action.
Hey, he's only, so do you want to start with my slightly high-pitched and very high-speed agitated commentary, or with Brian's very sound-centered, well, the point, because I'm willing to go either way.
No, let's keep the fire going.
Let's keep it. All right, okay, here's the deal.
I tend to put it out. So you keep
No, I disagree. I think you frame it. But, okay, here's the deal. The deal is that the system is insanely corrupt. I mean, people talk about, are the people corrupt? The system is designed to be corrupt. Matt's story is the sister story to another thing that doesn't get enough evidence, which is under Bush and now accelerated under Obama, the Justice Department policy for investigating banks in this country is not to investigate, but to say, Chase Bank, investigate yourself and let me know if you do anything illegal, literally. And if by some embarrassing chain of events, I find out as the government that you, Chase Bank, did something illegal, I saw Chase, look into it, investigate this and get back. You know, so what we have here is a system and this revolving door that you talk about, Dick Walker. Not only do they destroy the records in these cases, but if they could, they'd have the men in black come in and do the flash in the eye so that the individuals involved forget everything they learned. Since they can't do that, they hire them for big money.
Well, let me jump in there because there's an excellent case of exactly what you're talking about, again, in the Rolling Stone piece. There's a woman by the name of Jacqueline Milan who worked at AIG, and around September 15th of 2008, now remember that's mid-meltdown, she says, oh my God, there's some serious insider trading going on at our office at AIG. She works for AIG. AIG goes, oh, thank you so much for letting us know you're fired. Okay, obviously, immediately, right? So then they go to the SEC. They're like, insider trading at the company that we are giving an enormous bailout to, the largest of all the bailouts, over $180 billion. Hey, they might be funneling the money to themselves. You might want to look into that. And they go, yeah, that's a great point. Don't worry, we're going to appoint a commission led by AIG. Totally, everybody hired by AIG, no outside people at all. And AIG will tell us if they were corrupt. That's what the SEC says.
That's what the SEC says.
You have a problem with that?
None whatsoever. I think all these institutions are best left alone to investigate themselves. No, I think that, we all remember like the savings and loan debacle, if we go into the Wayback Machine, not too far back. And then we remember the Enron scandal. Like, I don't know who the poster boogeymen are of bringing the entire financial world to its knees in this collapse we just had. Where are those boogeymen? Where are the prosecutions of those guys?
Allow me to tell a story, if I may. May I?
Yeah, I'm asking because I don't even know. I don't know.
They don't exist.
I worked for AIG for many years, as you know. You probably don't know. Not in the great money-making, scandal-ridden areas, fortunately for my soul, unfortunately for my bank account. But there was a guy named Joe Cassano. Joe Cassano ran the financial products unit of AIG. 200 people out of a company of 120,000 that responsible for the whole collapse of everything, basically. His guys were just...
He's like patient X.
He's like, exactly. He's patient, he's the carrier, and he's the vector. And so he does this, makes these multi-billion-dollar totally leveraged deals, eventually bringing the economy down. Now, AIG, a lot of people don't know this, did one of these deals with the SEC early 2000s. I forget, I think it was 2003, where the SEC said, okay, we'll let you off the hook for blatant fraud. But you have to A, pay a fine, you have to B, keep an independent auditor in Joe Cassano's unit, and of course, it's illegal to lie to investors about what you're doing because that's stock fraud. You can go to jail for that. What happens? During Levin's investigation and some of the other Senate investigations, now, I can't call Joe Cassano guilty of a crime because that would be slander, but you remember the scene in The Producers where the jury foreman comes out and says, we find the defendant incredibly guilty. You remember that? Just bear that in mind as I'm talking about Joe Cassano, who I cannot call guilty of a crime because he was never prosecuted. So what happened was that you go through the records, Joe Cassano says to the independent auditor, that was part of a legal settlement, I'm not letting you look at the books. Independent auditor quits in frustration. Joe Cassano goes on a call, investor call, with people who are putting all their money in AIG and says, the books are great. Nobody has a problem with the books. He says, our deals are money good, meaning as good as cash. Our deals are money good. He's already been told there are serious problems. Senior executives have already been told there are senior problems. They're all on the call. They all say nothing. Joe Cassano brings down the world economy after a year's worth of waiting for the Justice Department to act. Finally the story leaks out like a little over a year later. The Obama Justice Department told Joe Cassano's lawyer, there will be no trial.
Now, let me finish that story. So he gets no prosecution. What did he get? He got between $300 to $600 million in compensation from AIG. Now, we put in over $180 billion of taxpayer money to rescue AIG. Did we get the money back from Cassano, who caused that $180 billion loss? No, we didn't, okay? He gets to keep those hundreds of millions of dollars, and as an extra kicker, the government said that they needed his expertise in the beginning, and they were paying $1 million a month to him for his expertise before that story broke and everybody was outraged, and finally they're like, okay, he's taking enough money, we'll let him retire.
So where are the investigators in the Justice Department who are taking it to these guys? Where are they?
That's a great question, and I constantly keep asking, where's Holder, our Attorney General? Well, I mean, he was supposed to be a lion for the people, right? And I mean, he was supposed to be a progressive, and he was going to get in there, and he was going to roll up his sleeves, and what happened? Nothing. The one guy prosecuted from Goldman Sachs was when he did the actions at Goldman Sachs, he was 28 years old. They found a guy that is an incredibly
and French,
fabulous
right?
Fab Therese, okay,
right.
And they brought him in, a 28-year-old, and they say, we got him.
I'll give him the frog. That's what somebody said. Look, here's the deal. Look, Holder has been his performance, and if there are any remaining Obama supporters listening, they're not going to be happy with what I'm about to say. His performance as Attorney General when it comes to financial investigations so far has been a disgrace. Plain and simple. Now, he went and said, we've got this whole unit, Operation Broken Trust, and we're going to investigate mortgage fraud. Well, it turns out, I did a piece on it, turns out that some of the investigations were completed before he even put the unit together. But he threw it all together, and no banks were ever. You go to the Justice Department website, how to spot mortgage fraud. There's nothing about how to spot if your bank might be cheating you. I went to Washington, and I told the Justice Department press people, I'm going to be there. I want to talk about the lack of prosecutions. They said, we feel, here's the blind trust material. I said, I don't think blind trust is real. I'd like to talk to somebody person to person about it. They said, we'll get back to you. I recontacted them 3 times. Nobody got back. This is, this is an embarrassment. And one last thing, I don't mean to be taking up the time, but it's the only way I can say all these things, is Wells Fargo Bank picked up Wachovia, guilty of laundering money for the Mexican drug cartels that have killed 35,000 people at least. In the most brutal gangs in the world, laundering drug money, let go again and again and again. Finally, a Senate investigator said, they've just told me they don't want any bank people prosecuted. If bank people are prosecuted, then they're afraid the economy will go down. So they get free pass.
Yeah, no, it's the Geithner administration, and all of the bankers must be given free passes. Otherwise, it endangers the economy. I think that they actually get themselves to believe it. And to the Broken Trust group, maybe they just labeled it was truth in labeling for the first time. They're like, no, we're going to break your trust. That's why we called it Broken Trust, right? And they didn't prosecute any of these guys. One last thing on this: the SEC has had 789 notices of people saying, I am leaving the SEC, and I will immediately be lobbying for somebody I was regulating. Okay, 789 of them. And the great majority were, or half of them were, and at a rate of 4 times the other divisions, was in the enforcement division. So the enforcement division at the SEC had by far the most people who would immediately leave and then lobby the SEC for the people who they were just regulating.
Well, I'd like to see people get more pissed off, toward President Obama about this issue than raising the debt ceiling. To be honest, like this is a problem of management and leadership that needs to be addressed, because it's an investigative arm of the United States that is not investigating the biggest crime of the century, which is bringing the economy to its knees on the backs of everyday working people who are losing their pensions, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's the biggest theft that we've seen.
Absolutely. You know what? I'm going to, even though I should take the break, I'm going to just squeeze in a video here that's somewhat related. It's Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney has decided that he's going to do a campaign ad because he got caught saying corporations are people. It seemed like he was doing a big defense. So he's going to double down and talk about what lovely human beings corporations are. Let's watch that ad.
Businesses are comprised of people. I'm talking about repair shops, gas stations, and beauty salons and restaurants. I'm talking about Apple Computer, Facebook, and Microsoft. I'm talking about businesses that employ people. It's really astonishing to me that the Obama folks would try and argue that businesses aren't people. What do they think they are? Little men from Mars? That when they tax business, they tax people.
Brought to you by the Soylent Green Corporation. It's people.
I don't know why he has to bring in the little men from Mars part too, because I think that's offensive to the little men from Mars.
Absolutely. Well, that's scandalous.
But the jump there from the mom and pop hair salon to Apple,
right,
is awesome.
Yeah,
because none of those people even has an Apple computer.
You know why he did that? You know why he did that though? Because they said, Mitt, you got to talk about Jobs. So he said, great. I just mentioned Steve Jobs.
Doesn't he need a break too? Isn't he a person?
He's a person.
Right. Now, of course, the reality are corporations.
I put the I in iBook.
Corporations are soulless machines. They are not human beings. They employ human beings. Sometimes, from time to time, they are run by human beings. But the reality is, if a human being is running a corporation and decides, hey, I don't want to make as much profit because I think I might be putting poison in the water or in the air or whatever else, they say, thank you very much, but you're escorted out of the building.
Here's the ad that should be run to counter that. What he's just advocated there is socialism.
That's interesting.
That is the definition. The company, the people, it's for the people. The money, it goes to all of the people. And you heard Michelle Bachmann, too, today talk about fixing the price of gasoline under $2. That also is, well, that's more totalitarianism, but I'm going to fix the cost of a good. That's so anti-Republican. Gas is going to be this much because I say so.
Right.
The people get all the money. I mean, it's like we've flip-flopped and we're now through the looking glass on all these political ideologies just to appeal to people and pander to them. It's just nuts.
The ironic thing is that the so-called progressive president isn't bothering to pander to people. Like, he's going around going, no, we can't investigate the banks because that would ruin the economy. Like,
wait a minute. Democrats are Republicans or Republicans are Democrats?
Who is he running against? But also I'd like to know why we spend all this time investigating murderers and the mafia and drug dealers, and because they're just people.
Yeah, that's it. They're people. Why don't you get off their backs?
Who gets the money for a contract hit? People. I kill you for money. I'm a person. I give some because he set up the deal. We're just people. What's
and at some point, you might have worked at a restaurant or a car shop.
I don't know about you guys, but I got my check from Apple yesterday because of their profits. I'm not even a shareholder, and I went to my mailbox, and there was a giant check for like 10 grand.
You know why? Because
in my mailbox,
because you bought an iPod once. And
this money it trickles right down to me. It's incredible. Just go to your mailbox, everybody, and you will find magic in there.
That's how trickle-down economics works, and it's not just because corporations are people. It's because they're people who love people. That's why.
They're people who need people. Mm-hmm. And they're the luckiest people in the world.
All right. Quick break. When we come back, dominionism. And if you thought, there was issues with the Obama administration, wait till you get a load of Perry or Bachmann. Come right back.